everyone, Kathy the sick vegan prepper here. I'm talking about feeling too stressed to think about prepping, and another thought that I had along those lines. Have you checked your negative self-talk? Let's go ahead and talk about it. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. Do-do-do, do-do-do, vegan prepper. One of my goals for 2023 was not only to be more low waste, but also to deal with stress, to not make things so hard on myself all the time. Because I know a lot of times the source of my stress and my anxiety comes not so much from external factors, but actually from my own internal dialogue and ridiculous and unrealistic expectations that I tend to place upon myself, that nobody in my world is doing that to me. I am doing that to me, nobody else. And I feel horrible for not meeting these like hidden self-imposed standards. Like it feels like I walk around oftentimes, and I know that this feeling is kind of common, so I'll go ahead and open up and share a little bit. But I walk around kind of constantly with this feeling of never being good enough, never being enough, never being done. Even if I manage to accomplish a huge amount of work in a day, if I don't get everything accomplished that I wanted to, which by the way is an insanely long to-do list, I give myself, like, I always have ridiculously optimistic expectations for how much I can get done in a certain amount of time. And then when I don't meet my own ridiculous expectations, I feel like a failure. But it's a funny place to live in, because for the most part, people around me are very encouraging. And, you know, like my husband, like Adam, will say all the time, like, you're so amazing. You're incredible. Like, I can't believe all of the things that you managed to get done. And I'm over here beating myself up like it's never enough. It's never enough. But that's not the message I'm hearing from anyone else. It's myself. So the reason that this topic came up in relation somehow to prepping, I don't know. It's like, I don't even know how my own brain made the connection. I've shared before that I am neurodivergent. I've never been officially diagnosed, but I definitely have something going on. And it's only as an adult that I've been really looking at that and looking into it. I'm not 100% sure that I ever will pursue official diagnosis. I'm not 100% sure what the benefits would be to that, because I don't really plan on ever doing meds of any kind. But anyway, I just wanted to say that for anybody else out there who's dealing with those kinds of things. And I think that kind of level of anxiety and perfectionism and feelings of failure, I think it's a common thread, especially in people who are neurodivergent, whether you're on the spectrum or you have ADHD or whatever is going on. But basically, I was just getting ready to make a lunch for my daughter and myself. I picked her up from school. And so like I said, I'm feeling like, did you get a good, nice, clear view of all the crap behind me? This is a little bit of what we're talking about today. Like, here, let me show you all the stuff I haven't done yet. Like, I was picking her up, and because she's totally fine. Actually, she was sick earlier. I think I got sick from her, and so she's fine. She was going to school. I was not being irresponsible about that. She was sick earlier in the week, and so what was I saying? I was picking her up from school, and I just got home, and I'm tired, and I'm like, I need an easy lunch, something that I don't have to deal with. I actually lost my voice completely last night, and then this morning I could also barely talk, so it's coming back a bit, so that's good. But I was like, just what can I do that's super easy? And I just have these little like pre-packaged packs of chili that I had gotten at Costco, kind of for this exact kind of thing. And so I did one of those, and I did some pasta. And so I went to go grab my pasta bucket. And this is my shells bucket. I buy these in bulk on Azure Standard, and the bucket was almost empty. I had another 5-pound bag of the pasta in my stash back here, and so I just refilled the bucket. And then immediately, because I know what I'm like, I will forget, I just went to add pasta to next month's Azure Standard order. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I had a moment, oh, this is probably what it was. I had a moment where, you know, every now and then you get the feeling like, oh, I did a good thing. Like I did well, you know, and it's like, oh, maybe I'm not so bad. And then I walked into my kitchen, which is a complete disaster right now. I was thinking about, showing you footage of my kitchen, but I don't think I'm ready to be that real with you right now, because I think all of us know what it's like when you go through hard times or difficult, you know, days or whatever, and your kitchen, just as if it's not receiving constant and continual, consistent maintenance, it goes to crap like so fast. And so I think all of us have been there and all of us know what it looks like. But I walked into my kitchen, and basically the little lift that I got from having prepared in advance and then preparing for my next order, and like, oh, I did so well, it just evaporated in the sight of my kitchen. And so I stood there for a second looking at the kitchen, and I try to coach myself. I try to be nice to myself. Ultimately, I'm not very nice to myself. I really, like I said, I hold myself up to ridiculously high standards. I'm trying to break that habit. And so I stood there and I thought, one of the things that I love to say, and I have said for a long time, and I think it's also good, well, first of all, I say this, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. So for those moments when I have to explain why I haven't done something, and I can tell myself, I'm not making excuses, because I get really harsh with myself, no excuses or whatever. It's like, no, I'm not making an excuse. This is this is really literally what happened. Like if my friend had just gone through the same thing, I would have compassion for her, or him. I would not be, you know, beating them up or thinking they're horrible human beings for not being able to keep on top of everything when you've got a sick kid. Also, it's, gosh, I almost said something that I should not say for our OPSEC. Adam typically does work long hours. He works 10 to 11 hours a day, but right now he's in an extremely busy moment at work, where pretty much all week this week, he's working more like 12, 13-hour days. And he's coming home really late at night, like after 8 o'clock sometimes. And then also, he's working Saturday, which he doesn't normally work Saturday, but he's working Saturday this week too. So he's gone all week long, and I've been dealing with a sick kid, and then I got sick myself, and it's just been a crazy, crazy time, right? But I'm still putting food on the table. I haven't ordered out even one time this week. Every meal has been prepared by these two hands right here. And so anyway, I say it's an explanation, right? All of that is an explanation, and that makes total sense that I haven't kept up on everything. But it was a funny moment though when I was standing there and realizing, I'm telling myself this to encourage myself. It's an explanation, not an excuse. And it suddenly hit me that even though that's good, like I think that's a step in the right direction, it just hit me, like I said a million times, who am I explaining myself to? And who am I afraid of making excuses for? Like, I'm the grown woman of this household. I am the queen of the house. Who on earth am I making explanations to or making excuses to? Like, why do I feel this overarching sense? I don't know. Who knows where it comes from, right? Childhood crap. The kind of general feeling, I think that a lot of, again, like neurodivergent people, like it's like this general feeling of failure because for whatever reason you seem incapable of accomplishing and sticking to the things that neurotypical people just do so easily. But praise God, we have our own superpowers, and so I don't regret that at all. But I just was like, who on earth am I talking? Like, I don't need to explain this. I don't need to excuse this. Nobody is judging me. I am the only one who's seeing it and judging myself, right? And it just felt so freeing. And I don't know if it's also partly because of this book I've talked about. So especially for anybody who is kind of neurodivergent too, or on the spectrum, with the exception of like random cussing that seems super out of place in this book. Like, it's like supposed to be like this professional thing written by this therapist for neurodivergent people, and then there's random cuss words in it. So I'm just like letting you know that's in there. It just feels super weird to me, and that's kind of the only negative that I have about this book. Because social cues are very difficult, especially for people on the spectrum or whatever, and so trying to navigate when it's appropriate to use taboo language versus not. Like, I'm not necessarily like 100% against cussing or anything like that. It's just interesting to me that it's in there. But basically, it's just a really, really wonderful book. One of the things that she says that I think is so amazing, I just, I guess I won't try to find it because it's kind of throughout the book, but care tasks, which is essentially things like the cleaning or whatever, it's morally neutral. It doesn't have to be a sign of your failure as a human being or your deficiency of character. Now, of course, sometimes maybe it is. I'm not going to say that it's never a deficiency of character. I'm not going to say that. Of course, sometimes there are some things that people need to work on and improve and change. But overall, especially like right now, this is a morally neutral thing. This is not like a terrible thing for my kitchen to be a disaster right now. And for me to be kind of just doing the best that I can with what I have in front of me and the kind of like insane load that I have had this week. Almost, obviously I'm not being the breadwinner at the same time. I'm not saying I'm a true single parent, but it's like I'm almost a single parent this week. But praise God, I'm not actually a single parent. Oh, I'm so grateful that I'm not. But yeah, I can't even imagine the difficulty of being in that situation. But it's like I don't have any extra hands right now. So anyway, this is just a fantastic book, a fantastic thing possibly to help you if you find yourself having real difficulty keeping up on kind of everyday tasks, or if you know somebody, say on the spectrum or ADHD or whatever, that this could be a great resource for helping people to get through that. Another thing that I really love is, and I'm going to circle this back to the negative talk and prepping, I promise. But another thing I really love, and I've talked about it before, is the organized mom method. I've tried Fly Lady and I like Fly Lady for sure. Fly Lady was a good start for me. It got me to a point where I could start actually taking care of my house and keeping track of things. But it was the organized mom method that finally really clicked. I like it because it feels a lot less complicated and it's easier for me to keep track of. And so I will link that book down below, as well as some free principles that she created. I do definitely heartily recommend the book. So say you're not neurodivergent, or say you are like ADHD and you just only want one book. And you really want something that's going to help you really learn how to get stuff together and keep the house clean, I would recommend the organized mom method. And like I said, I will link that. I'll link this down below as well. This does have a lot of really great tips in it, but it doesn't have like a schedule or anything like that. And so if you're wanting something more like that, then definitely the organized mom method would be great. Excuse me. And so the other piece of that was I was able to look at my mess and say to myself, I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best that I can right now. And it's not an excuse, but then again, who am I making excuses to? Or, oh my gosh, I'm going to be riding that high for so long. It's like, who am I trying to explain this to? Like, oh my gosh, like I have autonomy over my own life. I can make my own decisions. It's like, I know it sounds crazy, but I don't know if that resonates with anybody. And if it does, please let me know in the comments down below, because I would love to hear that. But to be able to say I am doing my best right now. And that is something that came from this book, which I also this is one of the books, if I could list a list of books, say I was only allowed to have, 2 or 3 books in the list, say 3 books. Okay. Out of 3 books, if I could recommend, that have changed my entire life, I would say this is 100% in there. This is the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And this might be a surprise because I know I have a really large Christian audience, and I am also absolutely a Christian. This is not a Christian book. There is a little bit to wade through that's not Christian. However, something about it, the way that he puts these things, super simple concepts, simple things to think about, it completely, for me especially, again, kind of as a neurodivergent person, as a person who used to have crippling social anxiety, this book basically released me of all of that. I know that that's crazy to say. Like, obviously also the Bible is in there for me. Like I don't read and study this book every day. I read and study the Bible every day, which continues to give me life and give me good things. But I'm not afraid of knowing that, like, sometimes other people have good things and other people have good ways of saying things, right? I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, even though you'd probably categorize this as more of a new age book. There's just something about the simplicity of the way that he's written it and the way that it comes across that is so beautiful. And it just, I believe that God sent this book into my life and it like set me free of so much. And so the Four Agreements are, and then, oh yeah, I bought it used. So there's like a dedication in there. I buy so many of my books used. So many of my books have random dedications to random people. But the Four Agreements being, if you've never heard of this, be impeccable with your word. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to read you this dust jacket cover, because this is just what you would read in the store, right? To find out about the book. And it's so simple. But the way that he speaks about it is so good and so clear. So here, and be impeccable with your word, speak with integrity, say only what you mean, avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. I love it, because that's, like, to me, especially as a believer who believes in the power of the word, capital W, for confessing and enacting change in our lives and kind of realigning our faith to receive the things that God wants to give to us. I 100% believe in all of that. That chapter especially was also like, oh my gosh, it was just like basically a biblical truth, I believe, just being said in a different way. The second one being, don't take anything personally. This is one of those ones that really helped with the social anxiety. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. I'm like, let's just like hit pause for a second. I feel like in the Psalms, right? Selah. Just like wait for a second. Pause and think about that. That too, 100%, recognizing that it's not about me. I can tell you a personal story, again, that really released me from a lot of negative self-talk was, for instance, as somebody who is overweight, and I've been overweight my whole life, I was 100% super insecure. I was 100% convinced that every single time anybody entered into a conversation about dieting around me, that they were doing a kind of roundabout, under the table kind of thing where they were actually saying to me, you need to go on a diet, right? I was taking their conversation personally. Come to find out, realizing all of a sudden, this has nothing to do with me. This has to do with these people, realizing these women are just as insecure as I am about their appearance. And they're talking about this because they're thinking about it for themselves. It's on their mind for themselves. They're not trying to, underhandedly preach at me that I should lose weight. They're too focused on themselves and their own body image to be thinking about me. That was freeing, life-changing. Things like that, like you think it has to do with you. It does not have to do with you. Anyway, just read the book. Okay, this is getting too long. But the third one being, don't make assumptions. Find the courage. So I did both. I took it personally and I was making an assumption right there, right? That their conversation was about me. Don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. So I love that too, because it's not about just not making assumptions, but it's stuff like that where you take something personally because you assume that something's going on that's not going on, right? And then the last one, this is the one that I was exercising when I was in my kitchen earlier. Always do your best is the fourth agreement. And this is the key right here. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Oh my gosh, I love that. So anyway, the 4 agreements, again, just as a quick run through, are be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. So this is, again, just one of those books. Now, if you, I don't know, if you're like a Christian who cannot handle it, then just keep going back to the word. Just ask God to show you in the Bible where he says basically those things. But also understand, I believe all of us are made in his image, and I think truth comes from many different angles, many different sources. I know I'm going to get in trouble for that. I'm not saying I'm theologically incorrect as far as the truth. I think you understand what I'm saying. You just understand what I'm saying. I think that it's possible that other people have gotten things right? Because I think, like the word also says, he's written eternity in our hearts. I think a lot of the stuff across the whole world that people just sort of instinctually know, you're supposed to be kind to people, you're supposed to be honorable, you're not supposed to deceive people, these are kind of universal truths. And I think that it's because God has like written the code of having a good life into our very being. I think that we all kind of know what we're supposed to do. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts. And so this book definitely, I think, for stopping negative self-talk, like he said, avoiding self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Because I can tell you what, when you're really insecure, Beth Moore once, she said a quote that I will never stop thinking about this quote until I die, I think. She says, constantly thinking negatively about yourself is still just constantly thinking about yourself. That being insecure and being negative, and I'm preaching to myself right now, but hopefully helping somebody else at the same time. It's basically the number one way to stay 100% self-focused, because I'm only thinking about me when I'm thinking badly about myself, right? I'm just thinking about me. The other thing that it does too, of course, is create an underlying sense of stress and anxiety. Like I was talking about earlier, that sense that I walk around with often, with that sense of like, it's never good enough, it's never enough, it's not good enough, like feeling like a failure because I haven't met some, self-imposed impossible standard. Walking around with those feelings definitely 100%, 1,000% contributes, even though I know technically my husband, if he were sitting here, believe me, he would say, that's not possible. It's not possible to have more than 100%. You know what I'm saying? 1,000%. Adam, if you're watching, contributes to anxiety and feelings of stress. And when you're focused on yourself and you're feeling stressed and you're feeling like all of this negative self-talk and all of these feelings of overwhelm, I think that happens to be, the source of a lot of people's stress, a lot of people's anxiety. And then you try to talk about all the stuff going on in the world right now, all the things that are potentially about to happen. I mean, Lord, please have mercy on us, like all of this stuff, because a whole bunch of people are not listening to the basics of be nice to each other, be kind, don't be selfish, we're about to have potentially horrific consequences visited upon the entire earth because there are people being selfish and people not doing the basics of morality and decency. But anyway, you start thinking about that stuff. How can you even go there if you're frozen over here And then the feelings of failure, feelings of inadequacy, the fear of doing things wrong, all of that. And again, like, who is it, the person inside of us? Who is it that we're trying to explain ourselves to? Who are we trying to give excuses to? And you have that locked up inside of you. How can you think about something like as simple as prepping, as something as simple as keeping your bulk pasta on hand so that you never run out and you just have to refill it, you know, when you're on a day like today, when I could not run out of pasta. Today was a day where it's like, I need something super fast, and I needed that pasta, and I had it. I didn't run out because I have a system in place, right? Like how can you develop those systems, and how can you get that stuff done if you're frozen in this other area? So I just sort of thought I would talk about that. Like we talk about managing anxiety and managing stress, but I talked to, there was another video I had about like the fear response. Like, we have our fear response is either to fight, to flee, or to freeze. And so it's like, what is your response when you're overwhelmed with fear? Do you fight and go after it, which is what I think a lot of the hardcore preppers do? Or is your fear response to freeze, or to like stick your head in the sand, just to run away and be like, la 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 la, I can't think about it, I can't look at it, you know? And so that, I think, has a lot to do with our response and how we want to prep. But then too, so you can be afraid, not just even of the things that are happening, there's many things to be afraid of, but you can be afraid of your own sense of your own inadequacy and failure and all of that. Like, we need to maybe figure out how to stop that negative self-talk, stop making ourselves feel like failures when we're absolutely not. Start catching ourselves in those moments of negativity. And it isn't like woo-woo crap. It's like, this is what's necessary to keep ourselves in a calm state where we can make rational decisions and put preps in place and begin to work towards those things. Because yeah, it just hit me all of a sudden, maybe it isn't fear of external things. Maybe there are people out there wrestling with their own negative self-talk, and it's keeping them frozen. It's keeping them unable to do anything else because they're so overwhelmed by their own sense of failure that they can't even take another step. And so yeah, I 100% relate. I can remember feeling like that. I still deal with the negative self-talk. I think I've gotten better about managing at least some of it and getting myself set up for my family. But yeah, just sort of my thoughts. Totally did not mean for this video to get this long, especially being sick, but of course, how could it not get this long? I am who I am. So anyway, if you liked that, you got anything out of it, let me know in the comments down below. I so look forward to hearing from you all. We have some of the most beautiful people, in the comments anyway. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. And I'm probably, like, I'm starting to feel the tiredness. I'm probably gonna go kind of just chill, take a little nap or something. And yeah, just remember, always do your best. Best changes from day to day. Let's be encouraging to each other. All right. Love you all. As always, I hope the rest of your day is good. Your life stays wonderful. I'm seriously leaving now. Bye.